Sir Charles Topham Hatt was given Elizabeth as a congratulatory gift from his parents after getting his driver's license from the local council. Back then there were no driving tests. Sir Charles often took Elizabeth out and about, whether it be for leisure or for collecting things like coal or other goods. However, despite her getting along well with him, Elizabeth always seemed to have one big issue. Ooh! Ah! Eek! Ooh! Do please drive more proper, Charles. Nonsense, replied Sir Charles crossly. Why, this is smooth driving. You're just finding things to complain about. Oh, she's so stubborn. Being a bit of a youngster, Sir Charles was trying to drive fast, but Elizabeth didn't like it one bit. Charles, we need to slow down. The crossing gates are closed. Charles! 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 Elizabeth was all steamed up, while Sir Charles laughed. That wasn't funny, you know. He could have been gravely hurt. Oh, liven up, Liz. It was only a little bit of fun. Elizabeth growled as the gates were opened, and she rolled away. I wish I had a better driver, she muttered. A decade went by, and after years working at crew on the mainland, Sir Charles was recommended by Sir William Stanier to help other railways overseas. This meant that he had no use for Elizabeth anymore. I'm sorry that this is where we part way, Elizabeth. Elizabeth did feel sad that her and Charles were to part ways, but she was secretly glad to be away from his improper driving. Elizabeth was sold to the Sodor slate quarry located on the Peel-Godred branch line. Well, I hope the drivers here are better than Charles, she said to herself. Oh, slow down! We can't. This slate is needed at the harbour, and we're behind schedule. Well, maybe if they didn't dawdle about for so long, we wouldn't be late. Laziness, if you ask me. They soon arrived at the harbour. Poor Elizabeth felt tired and shaken. You're quite early, said the dock manager. The ship doesn't leave until a couple of hours. Oh, I thought we were late. But hey, on time is much better, laughed the driver. But Elizabeth didn't find it funny. She seethed in fury. Not only are you careless when you're driving, but ignorant too at time. The driver scoffed. Look, mistakes are made, but we got here even early, so there. Elizabeth was cross as they headed for home to the slate quarry. As they trundled down the road, she began to regret her words about Sir Charles. Elizabeth carried on with her work at the slate quarry and continued to have to deal with more and more careless drivers. She complained more and more about their driving to the point that all of them were getting quite fed up with her complaining. One night, they made a plan. Alright, Elizabeth. We have a late night delivery to make all the way to Kildane. Some slate is needed for the station. Okay, let's get going. Is the Lord filled up? Of course. However, he was lying. They had only loaded her cart with some heavy scrap to make it feel like she was loaded with slate. Soon they made their way towards Kildane. However, Elizabeth's driver was once again going too fast for her liking. Not so fast! Not so fast! She complained. It's dark out here. Ugh, why are you just a manager? How are you drivers? They neared a sharp corner, just as the driver heard Henry coming along with an evening passenger train. Perfect. Suddenly the driver veered her towards the slope and jumped clear as Elizabeth fell off the road. Luckily the driver failed to aim her towards the rails well enough, and she instead crashed into an old shed. The driver didn't know that, however, and he walked away from the scene thinking that Henry had crashed into Elizabeth. Well, at least we won't be hearing her complaining again. Elizabeth was horrified by her now former driver's behaviour. How dare he do that to me? He'll pay. He never did though, as the driver told the manager at the slate quarry that Elizabeth had been smashed to bits in an accident. Over the many years since, Elizabeth remained trapped in the old abandoned shed. And all the while people had believed the driver's false story. Even Sir Charles Topham Hatt when he was controller of the railway. "37 years had passed since that day, and Elizabeth had no hope that anyone from the slate quarry would ever come to find her, and had accepted her fate. She was now well and truly lost, and gathering dust inside the old shed. She began thinking about Sir Charles and wondered how he was getting on. Oh, how I wish I could say how sorry I am now for bad-mouthing his driving. He may not be perfect, but he would never have treated me like this. I wonder if he remembers me. Maybe he misses me too." As she was sleeping, she heard some clanking noises and the sound of brakes squealing. Then she heard a voice from outside the shed. "Oh dear, I'll be late." Elizabeth was cross at being disturbed from her slumber. Then she heard another voice. "If there's a telephone in there, I could call for help." Now Elizabeth was getting even more cross. "Hurry, and be careful, it looks a bit spooky." The door creaked open, and in stepped two figures. The voice belonging to one of the figures was Thomas's driver. He and the fireman were surprised at what they found inside, but Elizabeth wasn't so happy at the sight of them. "Do you mind? I'm trying to sleep." "We're sorry for disturbing you. Elizabeth, and if you're looking for a phone, it's bad luck for you. This shed has been abandoned for years." "Oh dear, but we need help. One of Thomas's traction rods broke, and we're meant to be taking a special goods train to the harbour of Barrow. We can't suffer a delay, otherwise the ship would miss the tide." "Well, if you need transport, I can be of assistance," she said. "Are you sure you can get us to the works?" "Oh, of course! I haven't been used for a long while, but my boiler is healthy, and I'm fit as a fiddle." "Okay then. I'll tell the guard, and he can tell the signalman that we are blocking the path on the main line. Fireman, quickly, go get the coal from Thomas for Elizabeth. Hurry!" Meanwhile, Thomas was shivering, hoping that the voice he heard wasn't a ghost. Then his driver appeared. "Is it a ghost?" asked Thomas nervously. "It's a surprise," teased the driver. The fireman collected a wheelbarrow that was sitting nearby and loaded it with coal from Thomas's bunker, and he took it to the shed. Meanwhile, the driver inspected Elizabeth, and once the inspection was done, he said, "She can get us to the works." "Give her boiler wards," added the fireman anxiously. Soon Elizabeth was given a good head of steam. Meanwhile, Thomas was wondering what his driver had meant by a surprise. His driver poked his head out of the door and said, "Thomas, meet Elizabeth." The doors opened up and out came a dirty, grimy Elizabeth. "So, you're the little puffer that's broken down," she sniffed. This made Thomas cross. "And you're just an old sensible lorry," he retorted. "That would be a vintage sensible lorry to you," snapped Elizabeth, "and I haven't much time to get your traction rods." and she rolled away. She made grinding sounds and found it difficult to climb hills, but she carried on regardless all the way to the works. The scrap that was loaded onto her many years back was finally removed, and she trundled all the way back to Thomas, feeling pleased with herself. "And next time, don't be so careless," she scolded to Thomas. Thomas thought Elizabeth was the rudest lorry he had ever met, but he was glad to have his traction rods. Once he was repaired, Thomas puffed away again and tried to make up for lost time. Real little puffer. Not even a thank you for me getting his traction rods. Then Elizabeth looked around her. For the first time since being trapped in the old shed, she was outside again. She could feel the wind brushing across her face. "Oh, how amazing to feel that again," she sighed, and found herself quickly thinking about Thomas again. That little puffer might need my help again. Plus he owes me a thank you. But how can I get to the harbour at Barrow? I have no driver now. Just then she saw a farmer standing across the way in his field. "Excuse me, could you please drive me to the harbour at Barrow? I need to talk to someone there." "Sure, I can drive you. But fair warning, I haven't driven a lorry like you since I was a young farmer." Luckily there was some spare coal left over from Thomas, and soon Elizabeth chuffed away. Thomas arrived at the harbour just in time. Sir Charles Topham Hatt was there waiting anxiously for him. "What took you so long?" Thomas told him about his broken traction rods, and was just about to mention the rude sentinel lorry he'd met when Elizabeth rolled up. "Oh, it's you," said Elizabeth, looking down at Sir Charles. "Have you learned how to drive properly yet?" "Oh, she's in for it now," said Thomas to his driver. But Sir Charles beamed at the sight of Elizabeth. "Elizabeth," he said fondly, "my first lorry. I thought you'd been lost to us forever." The reunion was too much for Thomas. He puffed away to Shanty's train ready for the ship to take. Elizabeth was telling Sir Charles about what happened to her and how she had stayed stuck in the shed for years. Sir Charles was so happy that Elizabeth had been found that he offered to drive her back to Topham Manor. Are you sure, Sir Charles?" she asked, looking worried. "Don't worry, my driving has gotten a lot better over the years. Well, not to derail your plans, but I do need to get home first, sir," replied the farmer, chuckling. "It was splendid driving something like her again, but I think it would be grand to see you driving her, Sir Charles." Elizabeth then agreed, and with that, Sir Charles took the farmer aboard and drove Elizabeth back to his farm, followed by the Fat Controller's car close behind. Sir Charles heard the grinding sounds too. "Oh dear," replied Elizabeth, embarrassed. "Don't worry. Once we're back to your new home, I'll have Jem Cole fix you right up." Elizabeth was happy. "I'm glad that I'm back with you again, Sir Charles. It just goes to show that no matter how bad something might be, there's sometimes something even worse that could always be happening." When she was repaired, Elizabeth went to the slate quarry. The manager saw Elizabeth and was surprised. Later, he was fuming at the driver that had sought to destroy her and scolded him for lying about Elizabeth's supposed accident all those years ago, and for all the money they had to spend on buying a new lorry to replace her. In the end, he paid for his deeds, as Elizabeth had hoped for all those years ago, and he was fired. After that, Elizabeth did various jobs around the island under Sir Charles until his passing. Although she was sad that he was gone, she is now happy enjoying her retirement by attending rally shows on Sodor and the mainland with the Sodor Transport Museum.